If I were starting over, with nothing in my pockets, no name, no fame, no one to turn to, and no obvious path ahead, I wouldn't panic. I wouldn't run. I wouldn't blame the world. I would do one thing, and I'd do it relentlessly. I would speak success into existence, every single day until I became a millionaire. If I were starting over, the very first tool I would use wouldn't be money, a mentor, or even a master plan. It would be my words. Why? Because words are not passive sounds we toss into the air. They are creative forces. They shape our internal world, direct our beliefs, and lay the foundation for our external reality. Every thought we think becomes a sentence, every sentence we say becomes a belief, and every belief we hold becomes a blueprint for our life. When you're starting from zero, financially, emotionally, or even spiritually, it might seem like you have nothing, but that's not true. You have your voice, you have your declaration, and that is more powerful than you've been taught to believe. In fact, if I had to start again from rock bottom, with absolutely no external resources, I would sit in silence, gather myself, and begin to speak my new reality into existence. I'd say, I am wealth. I am success. I am a magnet for miracles. Because those aren't just pretty words, they're tools of creation. When you speak a thing, especially repeatedly, with intention and emotion, you begin to align your vibration, your energy, with the thing you are declaring. And energy always precedes physical manifestation. Science is starting to catch up to what spiritual teachers like Florence Scovel Shinn taught a century ago. That everything is energy. Your words vibrate. Your thoughts vibrate. And what you continuously vibrate, you attract. So imagine what happens when you keep saying, money flows to me effortlessly. I am divinely guided in all financial matters. Opportunities find me wherever I go. Wealth is my natural state. Over time, those words aren't just positive thinking. They become mental programming. They become the new operating system your subconscious uses to direct your choices, reactions, and opportunities. This isn't wishful thinking. It's a rewiring of the brain. Neuroscience confirms that repetition changes the brain's pathways. When you affirm wealth daily, you're not just speaking, you're reprogramming your mental map. You're slowly silencing the old voices of doubt, lack, fear, and limitation, and replacing them with belief, power, action, and confidence. Now here's the critical part when you're starting over. Life can feel extremely unstable. You may feel lost, unsupported, or invisible. This is when your words must become your stability. You must anchor yourself in declarations that feel more real than your current situation. Even if your bank account is at zero, even if you're behind on rent, even if everyone around you doubts your dream, you don't get rich by looking at what is. You get rich by speaking what will be, until what will be becomes what is. This is the beginning of conscious creation. You see, the world has conditioned you to speak about your problems, to talk endlessly about what's missing, about what's going wrong. But that only fuels more of the same. Words are seeds. Whatever you plant, you grow. So if you constantly say, I'm broke, or nothing ever works for me, or I'll never get ahead, you're sowing weeds of lack, and they will grow without fail. But when you flip the script, when you dare to say, I am rich, before you see the money, I am blessed, before the doors open, I am unstoppable, even when you feel exhausted, that's when the ground begins to shift. That's when life starts working in your favor, because the universe listens to your frequency, not your struggle. Let me be clear. This isn't about lying to yourself. This is about choosing to identify with your potential instead of your past. It's about seeing yourself through the lens of your future success and then speaking as that version of you would, because the millionaire version of you already exists in another timeline. And guess what? That version didn't get there by waiting for proof. They got there by speaking it into reality first. This is how powerful words are. They call forward what doesn't exist yet. They unlock doors that fear kept shut. They create inner alignment that external effort alone can't produce. So if I were starting over, I would write down 10 declarations of wealth that reflected the life I wanted, not the life I had. And I'd repeat them every single day, morning and night, not just casually, but with feeling, with belief, with commitment. And when doubt crept in, because it always does, I'd go even harder. I'd speak louder. I'd remind myself, my words are my weapon, and my reality is listening. I'd say, I was born for abundance. I am tuned to the frequency of wealth. I don't chase money. I expect miracles every day. Everything I speak is manifesting now. Over time, something magical would happen. People would start treating me differently. Opportunities would begin to appear. Inspired ideas would download into my mind. My energy would become magnetic, because I'd no longer be reacting to life. I'd be creating it. This is the hidden truth the wealthy know. Before the mansion, before the millions, before the media, they first spoke success. Out loud, in private, when no one was watching, when it felt foolish, when it felt fake, until it became fact. And so I repeat, words are not filler, they are frequency. They are the difference between staying stuck and stepping into power, between repeating the past and rewriting your future, between survival and success. If I were starting over, I wouldn't underestimate the power of my voice for even 1 second. Because if I can speak it, I can believe it. If I can believe it, I can act on it. If I can act on it, I can receive it. So no matter where you are in your journey right now, broken, or barely hanging on, start here, say it. Say it like your future depends on it. Say it until the doubt disappears. Say it until your mind aligns. Say it until your bank account catches up. Say it until you become it. Because one thing is certain, words spoken in faith will always outperform silence spoken in fear. And wealth, like all great things, responds to the one bold enough to call it by name. If I were starting over with nothing, no money, no fame, no support, I wouldn't wait to feel ready. I wouldn't wait for evidence to appear before I claimed success. I'd do something far more radical and far more powerful. I would speak as if it's already done. Not in the future. Not someday. Not, I hope. I would speak in present tense, because the present is where creation happens. There is a spiritual law that few ever dare to test fully. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you already are. This is why speaking in present tense is not wishful thinking or delusion. It is identity shaping. It is alignment with the energy of your desired life, right now. If I were starting over, I wouldn't say, I will be rich one day. I hope things turn around. I'm trying to become successful. That kind of language keeps success in the distance. It pushes your desire into the future, a future that's always one day away. Instead, I'd say, I am wealthy now. I am aligned with divine riches. I am the kind of person success chases, because the subconscious mind doesn't understand time the way your conscious mind does. It takes what you say literally. When you say, I am wealthy, your subconscious begins filtering life through that lens. It starts directing your thoughts, emotions, and decisions to support that new identity. The outer world follows the inner conviction. This is not about pretending. It's about becoming. When a caterpillar starts the process of becoming a butterfly, it doesn't say, someday I'll be a butterfly. It already is, within the cocoon. The transformation has begun. And that's what happens when you start speaking from the end. You are stepping into your transformation. Not chasing it, not begging for it, embodying it. If I were starting over, I would become relentless with my words. I would repeat, I am abundant now. Money flows to me with ease. Opportunities are already on their way to me. Clients love to pay me. I am living my millionaire life now, not out of ego, but out of alignment. Because the version of me who already has it all, the millionaire version, would never say, "I'd hope this works." That version would speak with confidence, gratitude, and certainty. And that's the secret. You must speak like the future you is already here. If I say, "I will be rich," I am confirming to my subconscious mind and to the universe that I am not rich right now. I am reinforcing the state of lack. I am postponing my blessing by the very words I use. This is why so many people stay stuck in cycles of waiting. Their words are rooted in someday, not now. But when you shift your speech to the present tense, you collapse time. You speed up manifestation. You signal to your body, your brain, and your environment that a new reality has begun. Even the Bible says, "Let the weak say, 'I am strong,' not, 'I will be strong someday.'" Because saying it now, in the middle of your weakness, begins the process of strength. If I were starting over, I would understand that delayed language causes delayed outcomes. And the more I said, "I'm getting there," the longer it would take. So I would stop that narrative. I would cut it off at the root. And I would replace it with a bold new way of speaking. One that matched the future I've chosen. Let me be real. Speaking in the present tense can feel awkward at first. Especially when your outer world doesn't match your words. You might feel like a fraud. You might feel silly. But that's only because you've been conditioned to speak about what is, not what can be. You've been trained to be realistic, to describe your circumstances instead of declaring your power. But if you want to shift your life, you must learn to describe the vision, not the visible. You must speak from the future, not the fear. When you say, "I am a millionaire," you are not lying. You are claiming what already exists on a spiritual level. You are calling it into the now. Just like a seed already holds the blueprint of a tree, your words hold the blueprint of your success. Words in present tense are like water to that seed. So if I were starting over, I'd make this a daily ritual. I'd wake up, breathe deeply, and say out loud, "Today I expect wealth." I'd look in the mirror and say, "I am powerful. I am successful. I am chosen." I'd write in my journal, as if everything I wanted had already happened. I'd speak to people with confidence and certainty, not desperation. I'd thank God in advance for blessings that hadn't yet arrived, because in my soul, they already had. And slowly, my energy would shift, my body posture would change, my decisions would evolve. I'd show up differently. I'd carry myself like someone who already had it, and people would feel that. Opportunities would feel that. The universe would respond to that. This is the real law of attraction. Not wishing, but embodying. Not asking, but affirming. Not hoping, but knowing. And the fastest way to do that is to speak in the present tense. Because when you start speaking it now, you start believing it now. And when you believe it now, you behave like it now. And when you behave like it now, you become it now. If I were starting over, I would speak like a millionaire before the money showed up. I would speak like a success before the results showed up. I would speak like a visionary before the world saw my vision. Because I don't wait for the world to believe in me. I speak until the world can't ignore me. So here's the challenge. If you're ready to change your life, stop saying what is. Start saying what will be, as if it already is. Don't say, "I want." Say, "I have." Don't say, "One day." Say, "Today." Don't say, "I'm becoming." Say, "I am." Because in truth, you already are. It just hasn't manifested yet, but it will. And it starts with your words. If I were starting over with nothing but a desire to change my life, no money, no reputation, no roadmap, I wouldn't panic. I wouldn't beg for a shortcut. I'd do something far more powerful, something that every self-made success story does whether they realize it or not. I'd repeat empowering words and declarations every single day until my identity transformed. Because identity is everything. You can never consistently outperform the identity you hold of yourself. If deep down, you see yourself as broke, unlucky, or average, even if you stumble into success, you'll eventually sabotage it or lose it. That's why transformation doesn't begin with money or opportunity. It begins with who you believe you are. And how do you change that belief? Through repetition. Repetition is the mother of all mastery. It's how we learn language, form habits, gain skills, and most importantly, it's how we create and solidify identity. When you repeat something over and over again, whether it's a phrase, a behavior, or a belief, it starts to sink into your subconscious mind. The brain is wired to believe what it hears most often, especially if it hears it from you. Your voice is the most trusted voice in your own mental ecosystem. So when you declare something with emotion and consistency, you are literally reprogramming yourself from the inside out. If I were starting over, I'd write down 10 powerful affirmations that reflect the identity of a millionaire, and I'd say them daily until I believed them. Without hesitation, without second-guessing, without waiting for circumstances to validate them. Because repetition doesn't need evidence. It builds its own momentum. Every morning, I'd say, I am powerful. I am wealthy. I am a solution in this world. I deserve to be rich because I create value. My mind is tuned to abundance. I attract wealth because I believe I am worthy of it. And I wouldn't just say them once. I'd say them over and over until they became second nature. Until they became who I was, not just what I wanted. Here's why this works. Your brain loves patterns. When you repeat a thought or behavior enough times, your brain begins to automate it. It stops questioning and starts reinforcing. This is called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on new input. That's why someone who repeats negative self-talk ends up stuck in patterns of self-doubt and procrastination. Their identity becomes, I'm not good enough, because they've said it so many times. But the same principle works in your favor. When you begin to say, I am rich, I am capable, I am disciplined, your brain starts to believe it. And when you believe it, your actions follow, your decisions change, your habits evolve, your energy shifts, and the world begins to respond. If I were starting over, I would understand that the words I repeat are not just motivational fluff. They are identity-forming statements. The most successful people in the world aren't just lucky or talented. They have a strong inner identity that supports their results. They see themselves as winners, leaders, creators. That didn't happen overnight. It happened through daily, intentional, repeated conditioning. And you can do the same. Let's take an example. Imagine someone who wakes up every day and says, I can't do this. I'm broke. I'll never make it. Now compare that to someone who wakes up and says, I am prepared. I am favored. I am built for this. Which one do you think will take more courageous action? Which one will notice opportunities instead of problems? Which one will recover faster from setbacks? It's not about positive thinking. It's about creating an inner identity that is aligned with the life you want to live. And repetition is the gateway. If I were starting over, I'd make repetition non-negotiable. I'd treat it like brushing my teeth. I'd do it even when I didn't feel like it. Even when nothing seemed to be changing. Because repetition is a game of accumulation. It builds slowly, but it builds powerfully. The first few days it may feel fake. But over time, something shifts. You begin to carry yourself differently. You walk into rooms with more confidence. You speak with more clarity. You take risks. You dream bigger. And all of it begins with a handful of sentences you repeated over and over until they became your truth. Let me say this plainly. You cannot change your life permanently until you change your identity. and you cannot change your identity until you change what you repeat. If you want to become a millionaire, you have to start by thinking and speaking like one. Long before the money comes, long before the world validates you, long before you see results. Because it's not the money that makes you a millionaire, it's the mindset, the identity, the repetition of beliefs that match that reality. Here's the mistake most people make: they wait to believe after they see evidence. But repetition doesn't need permission. It doesn't need proof. You repeat until you believe. And when you believe, the evidence follows. This is how I would rise from nothing, not by hustle alone, not by chance, but by choosing a new identity and reinforcing it daily through the consistent repetition of powerful affirmations. I would become obsessed with the version of me I wanted to be, not just in action, but in thought, in word, in repetition. Because that's how transformation becomes permanent. Repetition is what turns a desire into a belief. Belief is what turns a belief into action. Action is what turns action into a lifestyle. And a lifestyle is what makes you a millionaire. So, if you're in a place right now where you're starting over, feeling lost, stuck, broke, or overlooked, understand this. You already have the most powerful tool within you. Your voice, your words, your repetition. Choose them wisely, use them daily, repeat them relentlessly, because the person you become is shaped, not in rare moments of motivation, but in the small, consistent decisions you make about what to say when no one's listening. Speak life over yourself. Repeat abundance. Reinforce the truth of who you're becoming, and do it until it becomes who you are. That's the real secret to wealth. Not what you do once, but what you repeat every day, until the world has no choice but to catch up to your belief. If I were starting over from scratch, no money in my bank, no recognition, no handouts, and nothing but a dream, I know what would stand between me and the life I want: my beliefs. Not the economy, not competition, not my background. It would be the silent, invisible barriers in my own mind. The beliefs that whisper, "You're not good enough," or "You don't deserve success," or "You'll never make it." But here's what I know from experience, and what I would tell anyone starting over: beliefs are not facts. They are thoughts you've repeated for so long that you accepted them as true. And what has been programmed can be reprogrammed. That's where affirmations come in. Affirmations aren't just motivational sayings. They're not hype. They're mental weapons, designed to challenge, confront, and crush the old limiting beliefs that have kept you stuck, small, and silent. And when used with consistency and conviction, affirmations can rewrite your mental script and unlock a level of confidence and clarity you've never known. If I were starting over, I would become relentless about identifying and replacing every limiting belief I had about wealth, success, and self-worth. Because you cannot rise above what you believe. And no matter how much effort you put into changing your life, if your internal script says, "I'm not worthy," your results will keep reflecting that. Let's be real. Most of us were raised with beliefs that work against abundance. Money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are greedy. I'm just not lucky like them. I'm not smart enough to succeed. Good things don't happen to people like me. These aren't harmless phrases. These are programs. Every time you say or hear one, you're strengthening a belief system that creates fear, hesitation, and lack. And beliefs always drive behavior. That's why people self-sabotage. That's why they procrastinate. That's why they settle. Their beliefs won't let them move beyond what feels safe. But here's the truth: you weren't born with these beliefs. You were taught them, and what was learned can be unlearned. That's what affirmations are for. They are truths you choose to install in your mind, truths that align with your highest self, not your fearful self. If I were starting over, I would first take inventory of the limiting beliefs holding me back. I would write them down. Then, for each one, I'd write a new, powerful affirmation to replace it. For example, limiting belief: I'll never be rich. A new affirmation: wealth is my divine birthright, and I claim it now. Limiting belief: I'm not good with money. New affirmation: I manage and multiply money with confidence and wisdom. Limiting belief: no one in my family has ever been successful. New affirmation: I am the breakthrough my bloodline has been waiting for. Then I would say those affirmations daily, out loud, with emotion and intention, not once or twice. Every single day, because repetition is how the old beliefs were formed, and repetition is how they will be destroyed. You see, the subconscious mind doesn't care if something is true or false. It accepts whatever you give it most often, and most people unknowingly feed it lies. I'm not enough. I can't do this. Life is hard. So of course their life feels hard. They're living out the very beliefs they keep affirming. But when you flip the script, when you speak empowering affirmations into your soul every day, you're doing more than just talking. You're building new neural pathways, forming new beliefs, and most importantly, creating a new self-image. Because everything you experience in life is filtered through your self-image. If you see yourself as poor, you'll subconsciously avoid or destroy anything that contradicts that identity. If you see yourself as undeserving, you'll push away love, money, and opportunities. But when you begin to say, I am abundant, I am favored and chosen, I attract wealth effortlessly, your self-image changes. And once that shifts, everything else starts to follow. If I were starting over, I'd treat affirmations like medicine. I'd take them every morning and every night. I'd use them to heal old wounds. I'd use them to silence the noise of doubt and fear. And I wouldn't stop until my mind became a fortress of belief. Affirmations crush limiting beliefs by giving your mind a new, empowering alternative. It's not enough to say, I don't want to be broke anymore. You have to replace it with, I am wealthy now. Nature hates a vacuum. When you remove a belief, you must replace it. Otherwise, the old one returns stronger than before. And here's the magic: when you speak affirmations consistently, something begins to happen. You start making new choices. You take more risks. You walk with more authority. You attract better people. Your energy shifts, and the world responds to your new vibration. Because your outer world is just a mirror of your inner world. Change your inner dialogue, and you change your outer destiny. If I were starting over, I wouldn't waste time arguing with the past. I wouldn't replay the trauma or justify the excuses. I'd grab a pen and write 10 powerful truths about who I choose to be, and I'd say them like my life depends on it. Because it does. And here's the truth you don't need to feel like they're true at first. You don't need evidence. You don't need permission. You just need faith. The faith to speak truth, even when your current reality doesn't reflect it yet. Faith is the evidence of things not seen. And affirmations are the voice of that faith. They declare victory before the battle is even won. They crush fear before it has a chance to grow. They shatter the ceiling you were taught to live under and replace it with sky. So if you're starting over, say this with me now. I release every limiting belief I've ever accepted. I choose truth over fear. I am not who my past says I am. I am not what others said I could be. I am powerful. I am worthy, and I am rising. I am the master of my thoughts, and I choose wealth, success, and joy. Say it loud. Say it often. Say it until you believe it. Because you will become what you consistently affirm. Your beliefs built your current life. Your affirmations will build your new one. If I were starting over with nothing, no money, no name, no opportunity, yet held the desire to become something great, I wouldn't just make plans or write goals. I would start by aligning the emotion of belief with the declaration of truth. Because without that union, nothing manifests. The key to unlocking a new reality isn't just what you say, it's how deeply you feel it when you say it. Because words without emotion are empty. But when words are fueled by conviction, passion, and belief, they become creative power. It's not just the affirmation that works, it's the feeling behind it that charges it. There are countless people who say positive affirmations every morning, yet their lives never change. Why? Because their words are mechanical. They go through the motions, but their hearts aren't in it. Their minds are filled with doubt, fear, and contradiction. They might say, "I am rich," but inside they feel poor. They say, "I am powerful," but they feel weak. There's no alignment between their voice and their vibration. But if I were starting over, I wouldn't say a single affirmation without emotion. Because that's the gasoline. That's the frequency that amplifies what I speak. That's what magnetizes manifestation. Emotion is energy in motion. It's your direct signal to the universe. The stronger the emotion, the clearer the broadcast. When you speak with emotion, your body, your mind, and your spirit align into one single, focused channel. That's when miracles begin to happen. That's when the shift begins, not just in your words, but in your environment, your decisions, your posture, your energy field. It's not enough to repeat, "I am a millionaire." You have to feel what it means to be one. You have to feel the confidence, the gratitude, the peace, the freedom. You must close your eyes and imagine yourself in that moment. The sounds, the smells, the excitement of it, until your nervous system starts to believe it's real. Because in the quantum world, your feeling is the signal, and your reality is the response. Emotion is the language of the subconscious mind. While the conscious mind may argue with you, "You're not rich. You're not successful yet," the subconscious bypasses logic and accepts what is consistently spoken and emotionally charged. That's why trauma creates limiting beliefs. It comes with high emotion. But you can reverse that. Just as trauma burned in fear, you can burn in truth with love, certainty, and power. When you speak words of prosperity with deep feeling, you're rewriting the emotional code that governs your beliefs. So if I were starting over, I'd do more than just write affirmations. I'd stand in front of a mirror, look into my own eyes, and say them with such intensity that even the doubt inside me would start to tremble. I'd speak them until I cried, not from pain, but from release. I'd let my emotion rise up from the depths of my being and fuel every word like fire. Because that's what manifestation demands. Not just thought, not just words, but vibrational alignment. And your strongest vibration comes from your deepest emotion. Let me paint this clearly. You can say, "I am rich," 1,000 times a day. But if you feel unworthy, broke, and afraid, your dominant emotion will override your words. But if you say, "I am rich," with absolute gratitude, as if the money has already come, the universe responds, not to your need, but to your frequency. This is why gratitude in advance is one of the most powerful practices in manifestation. When you thank God or the universe before it happens, you're showing total faith. You're saying, "I already believe it's done." That emotional certainty is what pulls the unseen into the scene. So if I were starting over, I'd wake up each day and feel my way into my new reality. I'd speak like it's already mine, and I'd allow the emotions of joy, excitement, and peace to flood my body. I'd say, "Thank you for the abundance flowing into my life. I am so grateful for the wealth surrounding me. It feels so good to wake up free, empowered, and financially blessed." And I wouldn't stop at words. I'd walk around like I already had it. I'd move like a millionaire, breathe like a millionaire, think like one. Not to impress anyone, not to pretend, but to match the frequency of the future I've already claimed. And the fastest way to match that frequency is to embody the emotion of already having it. The emotion creates the attraction. The declaration gives it direction, but both must be used together. Imagine a radio signal. If your words are the broadcast, your emotion is the power source. Without emotion, your signal is weak and scattered. With emotion, it becomes focused, magnetic, irresistible. This is why people who feel powerful, confident, and blessed, even if they don't have all the evidence yet, still attract better opportunities, relationships, and results. Because emotion drives energy, and energy shapes outcome. It's also why fear blocks manifestation. Fear is a strong emotion, but it's rooted in lack, in loss, in survival. When you speak words from fear, you magnetize the very outcomes you're trying to avoid. I hope I don't lose my job becomes I am afraid I will, which becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But when you speak from love, faith, and excitement, you pull in new possibilities. You send a clear signal: I trust, I expect, I receive. And here's something no one tells you. You can practice feeling abundance, just like training a muscle. You can sit quietly, close your eyes, and flood your body with gratitude for everything you know is coming. You can rehearse the feelings of wealth, joy, success, even if your current life looks nothing like it. That practice builds emotional muscle. It shifts your state. It makes your declarations real. Because manifestation doesn't come from a desperate wish, it comes from emotional alignment. If I were starting over, I wouldn't waste time waiting to see the results. I'd create the results in my imagination and feel them until they showed up. I'd speak my future, but more importantly, I'd feel it every day, because emotion plus declaration is not just spiritual advice, it's a formula. Say it, feel it, live it, repeat. This is the power formula behind every great transformation. Athletes visualize winning and feel the triumph before they ever step onto the field. Entrepreneurs imagine closing deals and feel the satisfaction before the contracts are signed. Visionaries see the result in their mind and feel the victory before it becomes real. Why? Because the mind doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination, if the emotion is strong enough. So if you want to change your life, if you're starting from zero, from pain, from nowhere, start with this: speak your truth daily. Fuel it with gratitude, love, and certainty. Imagine it's already done. Feel it in your body, your soul, your bones. And keep doing it until your reality has no choice but to match your vibration. Because emotion without direction is chaos. Words without feeling are empty, but emotion F's declaration manifestation. And that's the formula that builds millionaires from nothing. If I were starting over, with no money, no connections, no recognition, just a dream in my heart and a fire in my soul, there's one truth I'd burn into my mind every single day. Your focus becomes your future. It sounds simple, but it's the foundation of everything. Whatever you consistently give your attention to, think about, talk about, and imagine, you start to move toward, even if you don't realize it. Focus is the steering wheel of your destiny. Your mind is like fertile soil. It doesn't care whether you plant weeds or flowers. It will grow what you feed it. The seeds you plant are your thoughts. The water you give them is your focus. And what you harvest is your future. So, if I were beginning again, I'd choose to plant thoughts of wealth, abundance, power, and possibility, and I'd water them with unwavering focus. Most people don't become successful because their focus is split. One moment they're thinking about abundance, the next they're worrying about bills. One day they believe in their dream, the next they're doubting themselves. Focus requires discipline. It's the ability to say, I will choose what I give my attention to, no matter what is happening around me. If you constantly focus on lack, you'll attract more of it. You'll see every closed door and missed opportunity. You'll magnify the problem and blind yourself to the solution. But when your focus is on abundance, gratitude, and possibilities, your brain starts to find evidence of success everywhere. You become like a magnet for ideas, people, and situations that align with your focus. The reason affirmations work isn't because they're magic words. They work because they redirect your focus. They break the cycle of negative thinking and point your mind toward a higher vision. Saying, "I am wealthy," over and over shifts your attention away from what you lack and puts it on what you are becoming. And where your focus goes, your energy flows, and your results grow. Let's say you're surrounded by chaos. Bills are piling up. Nothing's working. The easy thing is to focus on the problems. But that only feeds the fear. That only makes you feel stuck. If I were starting over, I'd discipline my mind to focus forward. I'd say, "This is temporary. I'm building wealth. I'm learning. I'm growing." Because the future you focus on is the one you move toward. Your brain has a filter called the reticular activating system, RAST, and it shows you more of what you focus on. Ever notice when you buy a new car, you suddenly see it everywhere? That's not a coincidence. That's your RAS at work. The same principle applies to your life. If you focus on wealth, opportunity, and success, your RAS will start showing you ways to achieve it. If you focus on fear, doubt, and lack, your mind will find more of that too. This is why vision boards, scripting, and visualization are so powerful. They lock your focus on what you want, not what you fear. When you can see the life you desire in your mind and focus on it daily, your actions begin to align with it. You begin to walk in the direction of that image, even if you're starting with nothing. Focus is more powerful than talent, more powerful than connections, more powerful than timing, because people with laser focus outlast and outgrow those with scattered energy. The person who says, "I will speak wealth until I become wealthy," and stays focused, will eventually become unstoppable. Distractions are the enemy of progress. If I were beginning again, I'd eliminate the noise. I'd unfollow anyone who feeds fear or doubt. I'd stop watching things that lower my energy. I'd protect my mind like a gatekeeper, allowing in only what lifts me, empowers me, and feeds my vision. That's what real focus looks like. The ability to tune out everything that doesn't serve the future you're building. Your focus is also your faith. Whatever you continually focus on, you are placing faith in. So if you keep focusing on failure, you are having faith that it will happen. If you focus on success, you're putting your faith in that outcome instead. The universe responds to your dominant vibration, and your vibration is shaped by what you focus on most. You may be wondering, but what if my current reality is full of struggle? How can I focus on wealth when I'm surrounded by lack? The answer is, you must train your mind to see beyond what is and focus on what will be. Just because something is your current reality doesn't mean it has to be your permanent destiny. The bridge between now and then is focus. Olympic athletes don't train by focusing on losing. They focus on winning, even when they're exhausted. Entrepreneurs don't build billion-dollar companies by focusing on their first rejection. They stay locked in on the vision. The most successful people in the world aren't the luckiest, they're the most focused. They say no to anything that doesn't match their mission. Even in spiritual teachings, this truth is echoed. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That's not just poetry, that's neuroscience. Your inner focus becomes your outer reality. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "The game of life is a game of boomerangs. Our thoughts, deeds, and words return to us sooner or later, with astounding accuracy. Focus is the throw, reality is the return. So if I were starting from scratch, I'd stop worrying about how fast the money comes. I'd stop asking when the breakthrough is going to happen. I'd stop checking my bank account for signs of progress. I'd focus my mind on who I am becoming. I'd visualize it daily. I'd speak it boldly. I'd write it down. I'd meditate on it. I'd repeat it until it saturated my subconscious. I am focused. I am clear. I am becoming wealth in human form. That would be my daily mantra. And I would guard that focus like gold. Because here's the truth. You become what you behold. You move toward what you magnify. You attract what you consistently focus on. Life responds to your inner gaze. You're not waiting for success to find you. You're focusing your way into it. And the beautiful part, focus is free. It doesn't cost anything to redirect your mind. It doesn't take a miracle to choose a better thought. All it takes is awareness and repetition. The more you focus on wealth, the more your world starts to rearrange itself to match that inner picture. Your future is not written in stone. It's written in focus. And if I were starting over, I wouldn't worry about what I lost or didn't have. I'd choose what to focus on, every hour, every day. Because that focus would become my thinking. That thinking would become my actions. And those actions would eventually build the future I declared one of wealth, freedom, and abundance. Because what you focus on, you become. And if you focus long enough, hard enough, and consistently enough, you will become a millionaire. If I were starting over from zero, no money, no opportunities, no backup plan, there's one principle I'd tattoo on my soul: consistency beats circumstances. Life will test you. It will throw problems your way. It will whisper doubts into your mind. And in those moments, the thing that will carry you through is not your talent, not your resources, not even your motivation. It's your consistency. Success is not built in the grand moments. It's built in the small ones. The quiet, daily choices that no one sees. The discipline to show up again and again, even when your reality hasn't changed yet. Because consistency is the proof of belief. Anyone can say affirmations once. Anyone can feel positive for a moment. But the one who says it every day, no matter what, that person is forging a millionaire mindset. When you speak abundance consistently, your subconscious begins to shift. At first, it may resist. It may argue back with years of fear, doubt, and limitation. But if you stay consistent, something miraculous happens. Your internal programming begins to rewrite itself. What used to feel like wishful thinking becomes your new truth. What once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. Why? Because repetition is how you rewire reality. Most people fail. Not because they lack intelligence or opportunity, but because they lack consistency. They try one thing, it doesn't work in a week, and they quit. They say affirmations for 3 days and expect their bank account to explode. But wealth doesn't reward dabblers. It rewards the devoted. The people who commit to their vision, even when there's no external validation. Even when the evidence hasn't caught up yet. You imagine planting a seed. You water it today, nothing happens. You water it tomorrow, still nothing. But if you water it daily, patiently, persistently, the roots begin to grow. Underground, unseen, and one day that seed breaks the surface and becomes something beautiful. That's how success works. That's how wealth grows, not in a flash but in layers. Through habits, through consistency. If I were starting from the bottom, I wouldn't wait for motivation to show up. I'd create a schedule. I'd carve out time every day to speak my affirmations, visualize my goals, study wealth, and take aligned action. I wouldn't trust my feelings. I'd trust my system. Because feelings come and go, but a consistent routine builds momentum that feelings can't touch. Let me be clear: your circumstances don't determine your destiny. Your consistency does. You can be broke and still speak wealth. You can feel lost and still take steps forward. You can be surrounded by negativity and still create a bubble of faith and focus. That's the power of consistency. It puts you back in control. When you say, "I am wealthy," every single day, even when you're overdrafted, you're training your spirit to lead your situation. When you wake up and read your vision every morning, even when nothing has changed, you're choosing consistency over circumstance. And eventually, life bends to match the rhythm you've set. The mind learns through repetition. Just like a muscle grows from repeated movement, the mind strengthens through repeated focus. Affirmations, declarations, prayers, plans, when done daily, start to form your identity. And identity is the thermostat of your life. You will never rise above the temperature of your beliefs. But when you raise the setting, consistently, everything else adjusts to match. Think about it, the most successful people in any field, athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, they all say the same thing. I just kept showing up. Not once, not when they felt like it, every single day. That's what separates the top 1% from the rest. Not luck, not genius, but consistency. They do the hard things so often, they become automatic. They build habits that carry them when inspiration runs out. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be persistent. You'll have days when you feel off. That's okay. Just don't stop. Even if all you can do is whisper your affirmation, I am a magnet for wealth. Say it. Even if your vision feels foggy, read it. Even if your plan didn't work, adjust it. But don't abandon it. Progress belongs to the ones who keep going. One of the biggest lies people believe is that if it's not working quickly, it's not working at all, but growth is often invisible before it becomes undeniable. Consistency creates compound results. Day by day, your actions stack, your thoughts align, your energy shifts, and without realizing it, you go from surviving to thriving, from hoping to knowing, from wishing to becoming. Consistency also builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on what you said you'd do, you reinforce your confidence. You start to believe in your word. You become the kind of person who finishes what they start. That inner trust is more valuable than money because it's the foundation of all lasting success. So if I were starting over, I'd forget trying to do everything perfectly. I'd pick a few powerful habits, daily affirmations, daily learning, daily action, and I'd lock in. I'd make them non-negotiable, not optional, not based on how I feel, just like brushing my teeth. Because that's how you build momentum. That's how you shift your frequency. That's how you walk into wealth. You don't become a millionaire by saying it once. You become a millionaire by saying it so many times that your soul starts to believe it. That belief drives your decisions. Those decisions create opportunities. Those opportunities lead to outcomes. And it all begins with consistency. Here's a truth no one talks about: wealth doesn't always come to the smartest. It comes to the most disciplined, the ones who show up and do the inner and outer work, daily, even when it's boring, even when it feels pointless, even when no one claps for them. Because they know that consistency is the bridge between the life they have and the life they want. So if you're in a place right now where nothing looks like it's working, don't stop. If you've been affirming abundance and still see lack, keep going. If your results are slow and your mind is full of doubts, stay consistent, because eventually your words will manifest. Your actions will bear fruit. Your life will catch up with your vision. And when it does, you'll look back and realize it wasn't the big breakthroughs that changed everything. It was the small, daily disciplines, the quiet repetitions, the moments you could have quit, but chose to speak one more affirmation instead. If I were starting over, I wouldn't chase hacks or shortcuts. I wouldn't worry about how long it takes. I would commit to consistency, with my words, my thoughts, and my habits. Because no matter how bad the circumstances are, they are temporary, but consistency creates transformation. It is the silent force that rewrites reality. It is the hammer that shatters limitations. It is the rhythm of the rich. And with it, I would speak this one truth every day until it became my life. I am already wealthy, and wealth is chasing me. Then I'd show up again tomorrow, and say it again and again, until I became it.